voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the Record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today, of course, is Wednesday, and it is also September the 11th, 2019. September the 11th, a date that will be indelibly etched in the minds of many persons. September the 11th, 2001, in the United States of America, the attack on New York City, Washington, D.C., downing of aircraft in Pennsylvania, loss of over 3,000 lives in the U.S. September 11th, approach of Hurricane Ivan to the Cayman Islands in 2004 as well. And no doubt there are other events that took place on September 11th as well. Another event that took place on September 11th, 2018, last year, gentleman by the name of Mr. Jeff Cornwall. You may recall an accident that took place on the bypass going towards Badabano. Collision between a cyclist and an automobile. Cyclist Mr. Cornwall lost his life as well early this morning. His friends, colleagues, and fellow cyclists had a memorial event at this spot where the accident occurred after 5 o'clock this morning, well attended by cyclists, and several tributes given by friends and colleagues to speaking about their friendship with Mr. Cornwall as well, which is a reminder for all of those of you who are operating vehicles on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, or operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we again urge you to be extremely cautious, ensure that you observe the rules of the road, and treat other road users with courtesy. Do not treat them with disdain. Do not act as if you are the only users of the road, the sole users of the road. As the old people would say, act as if you own the road. But bear in mind, be respectful, and remember that we're all users of the road, and we should respect the rights of others on the roads as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I'm your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Again this morning, 9 times out of 10, it is that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037, 949-6990. Email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. For those of you who are celebrating birthdays today, we want to wish you a happy birthday as well, and they will include Mr. Dave Smith, whose birthday is today, September 11th. We know Dave likes his chocolate cake, so I know Miss Lynn will be baking several chocolate cakes for him today. Miss Lynn, just make sure that he doesn't get up in the night, sneak out of bed, and go to the refrigerator and eat the cakes, because he is known to do that. He has admitted to us, I'm giving out his secret now, he has admitted to us that he gets up at night and he sneaks to the refrigerator and eat the cake that you have baked for him. So just one cake for his birthday today. Also celebrating a birthday today, a young man by the name of Nathaniel Forbes, a very promising young man, lives in the Rock Hole area. His father, Mr. Churchill Forbes. Nathaniel Forbes, he was an intern working with the planning department in the electrical section. I think he worked under the tutelage of Mr. Alan Moore, also known as Haha. During the holidays, he's back in school now. He's also an avid cyclist. He's in training. The Cycling Association has taken him under their wings, and he is in training. He has already represented the Cayman Islands at regional events, and he will do well if he continues as well. With that, it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Miss Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve McFeel, and we will be joined by the Honorable Mayor Lawrence later on during the show as well. None of you have birthdays today. Did I miss anyone? or have we? I know we haven't stopped counting now. As I get older, I'm more and more willing when someone asks me my age to tell them my age, and hopefully, if I do reach the age of Dr. McFeel, I hope that I am, as spring and sturdy and active as he is at 84. Yes. 84 years old. I hope that I can reach that as well. Dr. McFeel, Miss Teresa, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to you, Mr. For the Record. And good morning to all your For the Record fans locally and those that are in the diaspora. Mm-hmm. And good morning to Ms. Teresa Pitcairn. And it's good to be back. I'm happy that you asked us to come back as your guests again. Yes. And good morning to all your good friends down in the pit, I call it, down in Rock Hole. Yep. And allow me to take this opportunity to say a belated birthday to Lord Graham.
Lord Graham, yes.
It was his birthday yesterday, and his lordship, he believes in himself and his birthday. Yeah. He is one Caymanian who believes in Cayman.
Yep.
And
passionately, yes.
Passionately. And I wish that we had many hundreds more like Lord Graham. Mm-hmm. And he reminds me of the people I grew up with. And when I was young, of my uncles and all of those men of those days, how the pride they carried in themselves and the pride that they believe in themselves, and your family also, your uncles and all of those great men. I remember when they came home from on their holidays, they were well dressed at all times. Even when they went to the bar to drink, they were they wore their neckties and well dressed and so forth.
I used to call them dressed to the T.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I remember your uncle. One of your uncles, the famous Sky Blue,
Uncle Malachi.
Yeah, Uncle Malachi. He was one of the best dressed men in Cayman. In fact, one year he won the best dressed men's contest. We used to have that in Cayman, the best dressed men contest in the town hall. I'll never forget. I was peeping through the window to see, so good morning to all those friends down there. I understand that there's going to be a little get-together this afternoon, and I want to let them know that I will not miss that for anything. So good morning to all your friends, and I hope that we have a great day this morning.
We will. I think we will. I think we'll Miss T. And we know she wants to. She has her topic she wants to talk about this morning as well. We're going to spend a lot of time on that. Morning, Miss T.
Morning, and thanks very much for having me. I'd like to also extend a blessed morning to all of the listeners, no matter where they are on this planet. And this morning I'd like us to take a look at education if we can. But what triggered my thinking on this was when I saw an article in the newspaper this week or last week, that the teachers' salaries were not going to be increased for at least another year. So, of course, that just rolled in the whole education concerns that I'm sure we all have. But it took me back to notes that I discovered that I prepared from 2006 about, and I mean, this particular note that I prepared actually compares the history of education, Caribbean education, and looking at how we evolved as well, but also looking a little bit at the work that Yolanda Ford prepared when she looked at the predisposing factors to criminality. And, she wanted to discover some of the underlying determinants. And if I may introduce and open our show this morning with some of the concerns that she discovered.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial break. And then as soon as we take that commercial break, we'll come right back, and we'll start with that. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
The oldest known style of Caymanian home is the Wattle and Daub cottage, which dates back to the mid-18th century. The house was usually rectangular, with foundation posts made from the termite-resistant ironwood. Gaps between the ironwood and mahogany posts were filled with a basket weave of wattled sticks and then plastered on either side with lime daub made from burnt coral. The earliest roofs were thatched using palm tree fronds, but in more recent times, wood, shingle, or corrugated zinc has been used. Windows were simple openings with wood board shutters, while smoke pots helped keep out mosquitoes. Normally, these one-story dwellings would feature a steeply pitched roof, which would keep the houses cooler as the hot air rose. The typical yard would have been shaded with sea grape and plotnut trees, and there will be separate caboose for cooking.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. Cayman National is hosting a vehicle loan fair on Saturday, 14 September from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Cayman National Recreational Field located across from the main Elgin Avenue branch. Local dealers and insurance providers will be on site with random spot prices, refreshments, and a bouncing castle for the kids. Come out September 14th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and make that new car you've been dreaming about possible with Cayman National Bank.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Have you seen the latest? Cayman has been ranked the most expensive place to live. It's time to buy smart. It's time to buy Ropers. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices at Ropers. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Clean up your spending with Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Ropers Janitorial also offers complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511.
I'm going to Vamp Motors to test drive the new 7-seater Rush.
They have some really sweet deals going on now, not true?
Yep, on SUVs. And they sweeten the deal by giving you a warm oven-baked cookie with each test drive.
Better test drive more than one, just to be sure.
Take a test drive for a sweet surprise this month at Vamp Motors. Test drive any SUV and receive a freshly baked cookie. It's our way of saying thanks for dropping by to check out our huge sale on every SUV in stock. Save up to $4,400 during Vamp's summer SUV sale. That's every SUV in stock on sale for thousands off or cash back. Sweeten the deal only at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
Cayman, get ready for this year's 2019 Fidelity Fun Run Series. Join us opposite John Gray High School for the first 3 Saturdays in September at 7:30 a.m. for an exciting 2-mile run. Whether you're a serious competitor looking for a fun family activity or you want to take an early stroll, the Fidelity Fun Run Series is the event for you. Strollers and pets are welcome, and we've got trophies up. Register today for the races on September 7th, 14th, and 21st and get your Fun Run t-shirt. To register, visit CaymanActive.com for more information.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on ensuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
In 1996, Rotary Club Central led the way initiating a disaster fund to prepare and assist our community toward recovery. The Rotary Clubs of the Cayman Islands then expanded this valuable instrument, the Rotary Cayman Disaster Fund. Thereafter, Rotary District 7020, a group of 86 clubs over 10 countries in 16 islands across the Northwest Caribbean, grew this idea, the Rotary District 7020 Disaster Fund. Today, this Rotary Central idea has worked relief and recovery, assisting communities throughout this region. Rotary, with you before, during, and after. Rotary, connecting the world.
Sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. No one is alone.
Once upon a time, all your wishes came true, and you lived happily ever after. Or so you thought. Come see Cayman Drama Society's presentation of the musical Into the Woods.
Into the woods to grandmother's house and home before dark.
The show opens Thursday, September 12th, closes Saturday, October 5th. Tickets are selling fast. Order yours now at cds.ky.
Into the woods and out of the woods.
To be continued.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McPhail and Ms. Teresa Pitcairn. Before I turn the mic back over to Ms. Teresa, I just want to quickly say that we want to also extend a happy birthday to Mr. Ricky Seymour today as well. We've been advised that Ricky Seymour is celebrating his birthday today. So happy birthday, Ricky. Ms. Teresa.
Right. So I know that we've discussed this report on a number of occasions, not just in this show, and it has been discussed by other people, but I wanted to bring our focus on numbers today, and also discuss when we had an understanding of the matters that affect education and where we are in 2019 with it. So in Yolanda Ford's report, she disclosed that you had 181 men in Northwood, and of the 181 men in Northwood, there were 139 Caymanians. So that's 181 men, and you have 139 of them being Caymanians, and the other 39 persons were Jamaicans. So in my mind, mostly men of color. She also disclosed the fact that children, like 53% of those she discovered in the prison were actually children. 47% of all of those that were in lockup that she interviewed, you discovered that their moms were like age 19 and younger. So you can imagine that many of those kids did not have the proper support and nurturing that kids are likely to need. And indeed, you can expect that some of them were probably mistreated or neglected. She also discovered that many grew up in dysfunctional homes and had experienced episodes of spousal and child abuse, alcohol and drug abuse, and so on. But what was also evident, and which she found disturbing, particularly disturbing, is the fact that everyone disclosed behavior where they were poor performance in schools and they were not properly educated. So you have kids leaving school. They some of the times they don't show up for school. They are not properly given the kind of support that they needed at school, and so on. And I'm not going to get on the issue with teachers, because I find that some of the times the approach that we take to teachers is a little tough and sometimes unwarranted. It is true that some people who teach kids should not be teaching kids. They're not really wired to be teachers, but there are others who are wired and have concerns about teaching kids as well. Our case is a little different, at least when I look at it from the perspective of when I was there in the 1970s, for example. You had teachers that had simply no interest in teaching us because their values were not necessarily aligned with our community, and their interest in us as students was just not there. Their reason for teaching was not necessarily what we had hoped at the time, or what I think our government expectations were at the time. So what many people saw, and certainly what Yolanda saw, was this culture of on-performance in our community, where education wasn't valued, and we actually ostracized folks who had a desire to be educated. And that is also something that's in the mix that, I would like us to have a conversation about as well. When persons in the school system, senior persons in the school system, and I recall at one point, I think around about 1985, 1986, when Colin Ross went on the line and said, look, we have gangs in the school. This is something that is concerning, and we need to take a look at it. Now, I'm thinking, Colin taught me O-level English and A-level English literature. So I have a fairly good relationship with this gentleman. So in the 70s, when he came and he was teaching us, there was no evidence of this. In the 1980s, when he was teaching and had significant responsibility for education, he's seen, after a decade, a completely new set of kids. So our government at the time responded that there was no such thing as gangs. So, and that's a part of this culture where we tend to hide things rather than, own up and take things personal when we try to start to have a discussion about that. So that's 2006, you had Yolanda's report. And then 2012, we had another report written by a British consultant named David Moore. And you got to bear in mind, because I'm picking up, this was something that I wrote in 2006, and I'm picking up from other things that I reviewed with time. So he actually discovered a lot of the things that Yolanda discussed, a lot of the things that Colin Ross had to say, and so on. And I guess, but what we haven't also discussed, instead of blaming the kids, blaming young parenting, we haven't looked significantly enough on the role that our economy played. Because many of the moms, we used to have mothers, grandmothers, aunties, cousins that took care of kids while, folks were servicing the service industry and the hotels and so on. All of that was disrupted in the 70s and 80s because everybody went to work. And I know I personally raised this with certain employers and said, this is what you have done and knowingly done to the community. You've taken all the women in, because women at the time, we were making banking, we were developing banking, we were developing the offshore industry and so on. And I used to say, who's at home taking care of those kids? And I was told, and I'm not going to call any names, and in fact, it was not just the one person that said it. It's not their responsibility. You need to elect sensitive government that care about, I'll never forget this, OC, that care about the Caymanian people. And once you have your house in order, you don't need us to provide education for your children. I was gobsmacked by that because I was new in the profession, in the legal profession as well. But it spoke to the thinking at the time, and I know I raised this issue with our politicians at the time.
Okay, we've reached top of the hour, 8 o'clock news. Folks, please stay tuned. Don't change that dial. For the record, we'll be back. Dr. Steve Macfield, Mr. Reset Pitcairn. We will be joined by the Honourable Mary Lawrence after the 8 o'clock news as well. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
And the time by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Caymanbrack and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Your community, news and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. As the Cayman Islands prepares to update the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force on Cayman's framework for deterring and detecting money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing, government beefs up the team supporting the effort. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Mr. Jan Tibbling is the chief public prosecutor at the Swedish Economic Crime Authority. He has been seconded to the Cayman Islands CFATF National Coordination Team to advise Cayman in its preparations. Mr. Tibbling arrived in Cayman on Monday, August 26th, and he will be assisting through May 2020. The Swedish Economic Crime Authority is the equivalent of Cayman's Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, except in the area of financial crime. Mr. Tibbling's team deals with financial crime cases, including money laundering, tax crimes, and embezzlement. As an international asset recovery expert, he is Sweden's former contact point for asset recovery. He has represented Sweden at several financial action task force plenaries and sat as the law enforcement FATF assessor for Austria. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
And disaster risk management, climate change, and the One Health approach are among the topics being explored at this year's Cayman Islands Healthcare Conference. The sessions will feature experts from Utah State University, the Pan American Health Organization, Public Health England, the Cayman Islands Department of Agriculture, and St. Matthew's University. The healthcare conference is September 26th through the 28th at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. In regional news, the United Nations Development Program is reporting that it has released an initial allocation of $200,000 of emergency funding in response to the devastating impact of Category 5 Hurricane Dorian on the Bahamas. Further, the UNDP says it has committed support for debris and waste management, housing and building damage assessments, and national recovery strategy. UNDP resident representative in the Jamaica office, who also represents Bahamas, says, quote, UNDP is here to support the government in early recovery through our global network of technical expertise, while recognizing that the welfare of the affected populations and all the citizens of the Bahamas is of utmost priority. Building back better and promoting resilience are also crucial. To this end, we are actively engaging with government and are committed to rebuilding a more resilient Bahamas. Crisis prevention and recovery is a key pillar of UNDP's development assistance globally. That story from the Jamaica Gleaner. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Danielle Yawowiecka. Scotland's highest civil court has ruled that the suspension of Britain's Parliament for 5 weeks ahead of the country's planned departure from the European Union next month was unlawful. In a unanimous decision, the 3 judges said the purpose of the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, was to stymie Parliament. As a result, they concluded that his advice to the Queen to suspend parliamentary proceedings was unlawful. A BBC political correspondent says the court's decision is a bombshell, with Mr Johnson in effect being found to have misled the Queen. The government says it will appeal to the Supreme Court in London. Opposition parties are calling for Parliament to be recalled immediately. The US state of California has passed a bill which significantly expands the rights of so-called gig economy workers employed by companies such as Lyft and Uber. They'll get benefits including holiday pay, sick leave and health insurance. Lyft and Uber have lobbied hard against the bill. China has confirmed the detention of a Taiwanese businessman who'd visited anti-government protesters in Hong Kong. Morrison Lee went missing 3 weeks ago in the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen. The Norwegian Refugee Council says drought and conflict in Somalia have forced nearly 250,000 people from their homes so far this year. Many have moved to overcrowded cities in search of food and water. 8 climate change activists have gone on trial in Paris on charges of theft for taking down official portraits of President Macron. The group say they wanted to highlight what they call inaction by the French government over global warming. And the Indian finance minister has faced a Twitter storm after implying that millennials should carry the blame for the downturn in the motor industry. Nirmala Sitharaman said young people were not buying new cars since they preferred taxi-hailing apps like Uber. The comments were ridiculed on social media. That's the latest BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk Today, the most listened to call-in program in Cayman, airs Monday through Friday, 12:15 till 2:30 p.m. Listeners are encouraged to call in and share their constructive thoughts and ideas on current issues concerning the Cayman Islands and beyond.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Savannah Pharmacy, just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
We at The Wharf have the only multi-purpose conference room in Cayman, providing high-speed internet and all state-of-the-art audio and visual, and are now open and ready for your meetings and events. Multiple wireless microphones and Dolby surround speakers make your presentations on the giant screen clear and interactive. Imagine your meetings with a view, a full bar and kitchen on site where all your needs are cared for, just a few steps away from the Caribbean Sea. All F&B will be customized to your preference. Call 949-2231 or email info@wharf.ky to start planning your waterfront meeting now.
The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association wishes to remind all members the September Social will take place on Tuesday, 17 September at 7 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. It is expected that all members come dressed in their CISA shirt. Transportation will be provided as follows. 3 buses will leave from the West Bay Town Hall at 6 p.m. The Barnes bus route in Georgetown leaves the public library parking area at 6:30, stopping at the Cayman Compass building and the airport Fosters. The bus marked Bobo $1 public transport and is blue in color will do pickups from British Cayman, Uncle Bill's, Walker's Road, Shedden Road, and Crew Road. In East End, the bus pickups are the primary school parking lot, the gas station, and Wreck of the 10 sales starting at 5:45. In Northside, pickups are at Chisholm's store and the soccer field starting at 6:15. In Bottomtown, pickups are at the Lorna gas station at 6:45, and in Savannah, pickups at the gas station next to Wendy's. They look forward to seeing everyone on Tuesday, the 17th of September, 7 p.m. at the Seafarers Hall.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Thinking of decorating your home or your apartment? Then Super Stitch is the place for all your household needs. We have sheets, comforters, bathroom accessories, curtains, and a whole lot more. We are the original curtain store with curtains for every room in the house. Some special now curtains for $10 a panel. Yes, just $10 a panel. Come see us today at Super Stitch. Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 85 degrees. Relative humidity is 88%. Barometric pressure 29.91 inches and rising. The wind is northeast at 11 knots. Overnight low temperature was 80 degrees. Synopsis indicate isolated showers along with moderate winds are expected over the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as a tropical wave moves over the northwest Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving towards the west-southwest. Now the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers and some thunder, meaning this morning. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s. Winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. And seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Pretty much the same for tonight. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers and some thunder. Temperatures will fall to the upper 70s tonight. Your winds will be east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots. And seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Low tide will be this afternoon at 2:15. High tide tonight at 8:39. Sun will set this evening at 6:30 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:13. And the outlook is calling for a decreasing chance of showers from tomorrow morning as a tropical wave moves further west of the Cayman area.
Superstitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Superstitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky.
Thinking of decorating your home or your apartment? Then Super Stitch is the place for all your household needs. We have sheets, comforters, bathroom accessories, curtains, and a whole lot more. We are the original curtain store with curtains for every room in the house. Some special now curtains for $10 a panel. Yes, just $10 a panel. Come see us today at Super Stitch. Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasadena Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Looking for a new car? We can give you a zillion reasons to switch to electric. They cost you less to run. They helps to save the planet. They are free charging stations all across Grand Cayman. Low maintenance needs. They're quiet both inside and out. And they're the future. But most of all, the government has reduced custom duties on electric cars. For cars valued below $30,000, you now don't have to pay anything. Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure Facebook page for more information on electric cars.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again, and as we look towards the roads, here's what we're finding. Busy traffic, bumper to bumper coming from the east and Shamrock Road and the Linford Pearson Highway. A lot of patience needed this morning. Slight delays expected. Coming off of Bobby Thompson Way, traffic is steady but flowing at the moment. Little steady traffic on Huldah Avenue. Busy traffic on Cool Road. Some sections slow moving. Moderate flow of traffic from the Westway 4-way stop, and traffic flowing pretty good on Godfrey Nixon Way and on Eastern Avenue. In and out of Georgetown, moderate flow of traffic. Edward Street, no issues there. On Owen Roberts Drive, traffic is flowing nicely. Thomas Russell Way, moderate flow of traffic, and North Sound Road, traffic is moderate. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 for more traffic report. Have a good morning. Buckle up.
Introduce yourself to the Fresh Fit 6-inch Whey at Subway.
That's 7 subs that have 400 calories or less.
These are healthier choices made with fresh options, making healthy delicious.
Choose from roast beef, the Subway Club, or Veggie Delight.
There's oven roasted chicken, turkey breast, black forest ham, and sweet onion chicken teriyaki.
With 400 calories or less and loaded with flavor, enjoy the Fresh Fit subs at Subway. Available island-wide and 24 hours a day at Anderson Square and Centennial Towers.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Hurricane Ivan was a storm that changed the Cayman Islands. On Wednesday, the 11th of September, you're invited to join the Water Authority as it marks the 15th anniversary of Ivan. View the Authority's special exhibit highlighting the impact of the storm and the strides the Authority has made to become stronger and more resilient. Get important preparedness information to help keep you vigilant this hurricane season, all while enjoying lunch. Join the Water Authority in remembering Hurricane Ivan. It all happens on Wednesday, the 11th of September from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Water Authority office.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Get half off a complete pair of glasses with any student's eye exam, now extended to September 14th. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook, located in Caymanian Village.
Terms and conditions apply. The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher.
The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run.
Saturday, November 2nd.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Ms. Theresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve MacPhail. The first topic that we're discussing this morning has to do with education, and again, passing the mic back over to Ms. Theresa.
Yeah, so you have a community in flux where there's a clear focus by the leadership of the day on the economy and not sufficient attention being paid to investments in education. So when we're reading about reports that were prepared this year, for example, we have known for decades what we've had to deal with. We used to vilify the Jamaicans about using the money that they earn here to educate their children. We would vilify our own leaders, telling them that they're educated fools and educated idiots. And indeed, you had some of our leaders that would, say to the actual community that they were hoping to represent that they would vote for broomsticks. So you didn't have a system where performance was important, educational performance was important. And, I just want to pass it over now to Dr. Macfield, to perhaps build on some of the things we were discussing.
Well, it should be clear to us now, even though that our respective governments never put a lot of money in education, and past generations of our people never respected education. But it should be clear to us now that education and training in this global village is necessary. It should be clear to us. Because what it does, if we're not creating jobs and creating wealth and satisfying our needs, our economic needs, what we are going to have is a chronic dependence, a chronic dependency effect, and that's what's happening in Cayman. We're starting to have a chronic dependence effect because we're not realizing that we're competing against everybody else in the world in our own territory. And it should be clear to us now, clear to every family, to every person who has children, that they have to provide for their education. They can't leave it to the government to do so, because it doesn't take an entrepreneurial genius or a political wizard to understand that a country it will be plagued with a dependency effect. If the people are not educated and the people are not engaged into the economic miracle. Mm-hmm. The problem that we have in Cayman is that we would rather buy a expensive car. We would rather have a $1 million home. We would rather take our money and go off to Miami or to some place else instead of putting it on our children. I was lucky to be able to give my children a good education that I did not have, but that was a priority for me, even when I couldn't afford to go out to eat. And many times I had to scrape the money to keep my son in St. Andrews College in Toronto. I had to keep the money, save the money there, and pay late. So it's up to us. And the problem that we have is that we start to blame government for everything. I would just like to read, because the Constitution doesn't say that government has to provide all these educational opportunities for us. The Constitution only make governments obliged to give us the basics. Because just let me read what it says in the Bill of Rights on the Education, Section 20. It says this section is without prejudice to Section 10. And it says, government shall seek reasonably to achieve the progressive realization within available resources of providing every child with primary and secondary education, which shall subject to education be free. And every person who is the parent of or legal guardian of a child shall be entitled to have his or her child of whatever age educated at his or her own expense, unless the law otherwise provides, in a private school, that is to say, a school other than one established by a public authority, and in such a school to ensure the religious and moral education of his or her child in accordance with his or her own convictions. So it's up to our community, really, to start thinking about ourselves and our educational progress, because if we don't, we are not going to get out of this chronic dependent syndrome that we're in. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about. I remember when I was a student at Cave Hill in Barbados. a woman down in a place called Free Hill, which is down from the hill, used to wash my clothes and iron my clothes for me. She used to take care of my clothes, and they had a house. They had a chattel house, and they didn't have an electricity in their house. And there she had 3 children. She had 2 girls and 1 boy, and they used to go and do their subjects, do their homework under the street lamp across from their house. Under the street lamp across from their house, because they had no electricity. They didn't sit down and say, because we don't have an electricity, we're not going to go to school, or we're not going to do it. They had to compete, because that's a very competitive society. And so we, in Cayman now, we have to understand that constitutionally the government only does, as far as education is concerned, only do what it says what is reasonably necessary to achieve. So we have to sacrifice for our families and our children, and we have to save the money and pool it and our resources to be able to educate our children. It behoves me to know that even though the foreigners, as we call them, come in here from all different parts, India, Pakistan, all over, they come in, and they are taking advantage of the system. When I go up to UCCI in the evenings, I see all of these people from Honduras, and all of these people taking care of the night schools, taking care of the education system that we provide to benefit themselves. I don't see our people flocking there. As I said, when I was growing up, I was speaking to Mr. For the Record off the record when the break came. I says, if we in the 1940s and 50s, when we were growing up here, can you imagine if they had colleges and stuff for we to go to, what we would have become? We didn't have any such things. We had slates. We didn't have schools. We learned outside under the breadfruit tree. That's where we learned. We were all bare feet. We didn't have all of this stuff, but we had a desire to learn. And I can't understand how is it that we could go out in the world and succeed in all those countries, North America, all those large cities, and we could succeed and go there and get university degrees and get professions and stuff. How could we do that when we didn't have any labs and all that kind of stuff that they have today? But how could we do that? There's something is wrong. It's because our families and our communities do not care about education. As long as we get a new car and we can go buy all the fast foods that cause us sickness when you get 50 and 60 years old, that's all we're interested. We're not interested in educating our children and putting our children in a competitive situation where they can compete against other people coming into the country.
But I don't think that we can make a generalization of that for the Cayman Islands and Caymanians, because there are those parents who say, and still in my day, I'm not sure how many parents say it today, but they would always tell you, I want to ensure that you get a good education, because I don't want you doing the same job that I am doing now. I want you to be able to do better. I don't want you to have to, to go through the suffering that I have gone through on particular jobs, because I want you to be able to do better for yourself. That used to be the mantra of of the day.
But what I'm talking about is that if you look at the statistics that we read every day, Cayman has tripled the increased supply of educational services. Tripled in educational services, the things that we need education for. But yet, Cayman has not increased the education output 1/3 of that. So there's a problem. There's a problem if you keep have to supply people from outside to do these low entrance educational services. Something is wrong in your system, and it seems to me if the government is not doing it, then we have to do it ourselves. That reminds me of another story when I went to Canada, and I was on a program called Hourglass. It's put on by the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I was a panelist on that show, and I was talking to a man called Mr. Jack Wasserman, who was the moderator to that show, and he was talking about when they came from Poland after the war. They were only taken in the university in Calgary, I think it was. They were only taken 3 Jews in the medical school, and that year his brother was the 4th Jew. And I said to him, well, what did you do? He said, well, he stayed out 1 year, and when his turn came, he got into the faculty, and then he stayed on in the faculty. And then when the next Jew came, he stayed on to the faculty, and the whole faculty became Jewish, and then they start to enroll who they believe they wanted to enroll. Well, we don't do that in Cayman. And the problem that we have in Cayman now is that we have to step up to the plate. We have to step up to the plate, and we have to start thinking about how we are going to compete in this global village that we're in. Because if we don't, we are going to have this chronic dependency effect. It's not motivative, and it's going to be something that is going to plague us for the next generation if we cannot solve it in this generation. And I applaud the minister. In fact, I think the minister is doing the best she can under the circumstances in which she got to provide the funds. But you see, again, the funds are not there. So let's go and do it ourselves.
And you would admit that the government has gone beyond what you have quoted that our Constitution requires from an educational standpoint. The government has gone beyond that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. The government could do more too. But the government is the government. Mm-hmm. And the government is saying, well, we have fulfilled our mandate, our constitutional responsibility. And so now, and just let me tell you about this Jamaican man in Jamaica when I was in Jamaica, and we were buying trying to get this cat, this lignum white cat,
carving,
this carving from the guy in the market, and he said he wanted $200 for the cat, and he said. We said the people we were in a bus store with other people from the hotel from the hotel, and he said he wanted $200 for it, and I said we'll give you $150. He said no, $200, and he said $150, and then he wouldn't sell it to us for $150. So when he left, his assistant said to my wife, "Oh, I love your hair, Mrs. I love your hairstyle." So I said to my wife, "We have an opening here now. We have an opening here now. We're gonna walk right through this now." So I told her, I said we really like to have the cat for $150. So she said, "Okay, we'll sell it for $150." But when we went into our purse, we only had like a couple of $100 bills. So she had to call him back to get the change, and he had a big cigar box under his arm. And when he opened it, he had all this American money. So I said to him, "Look at all American money you have." I said, "I know you must have made a lot of profit today." So he said to me, "Sir, I stay up all night and carve them thing here, and I bring them to the market here and stuff and so forth because I need this money for Howard University." So I said to him, "You mean to tell me in Jamaica you collecting money for Howard University in Washington?" He said, "Collecting money for Howard University?" "No," he said, "it's my son at Howard." So I said, "Well, what your son going to do in Howard?" "I'm studying to be dentist, and that's why I need the dollar." And I said to myself, that what he said to me affected me profoundly. Here's a man staying up all night carving the stuff, bringing it to the market, and like selling it to send for keep his son in school, to break that chain of poverty. His son, the next generation, is going to break that chain of poverty to make that family better off. You contrast that with what I saw in Cayman. A particular Caymanian man who was very successful in business and otherwise was in the gas station, and this someone says to him, your girlfriend told me that your son needs some special education to get into school in the States because he's a good athlete, but he needs some special education to get into the school in the States, and he needs some special education to bring his grades up so he can get into the school. And the man said to him, "Special education? Nobody ever gave me no special education." And he just brushed it off. And I've said to myself, here is that he has a chance now to put his son in a position where his son now is going to be better off than him maybe in 2 or 3 generations. And then I look at people like the oligarchs in America, the Kennedy's families and all those. Old Joe Kennedy came from Ireland, and he was running liquor and making money of the liquor from across the ice from Quebec to New York and stuff like that in the Prohibition days, and made their money. And he knew that he could not be president. But he made sure that all his sons went to Harvard University to put them in the position where they could change that family fortunes, and to change that family put social and economic position. We don't do that in Cayman. We don't do that in Cayman. A lot of us, some people do it, but I wouldn't say we do that. I mean, a majority of people don't do it. Yes. We just lay back and then say, and today is different from the day when you and I were growing up, Orrett. I remember when I was going my first trip off to sea, when I was going off to America. I remember how my mother had to she even sold a machine to get the clothes for me to go and go around asking people, you got any warm clothes? You got any warm clothes? Because I was going away in January and it was cold in America. Yeah. And say, got any warm clothes? But today, that sort of family effort, it seems to me, is lost. And what we have now is this chronic dependency effect on the government, on other people, blaming other people and stuff, when we should go out and start doing it ourselves. Yeah, help ourselves.
T say, do it in your homes. Don't expect the government to do it for you. Do it yourself. We have to go to a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Cayman, get ready for this year's 2019 Fidelity Fun Run Series. Join us opposite John Gray High School for the first 3 Saturdays in September at 7:30 a.m. for an exciting 2-mile run. Whether you're a serious competitor looking for a fun family activity or you want to take an early stroll, the Fidelity Fun Run Series is the event for you. Strollers and pets are welcome, and we've got trophies up for grabs as well. Register today for the races on September 7th, 14th, and 21st. And get your Fun Run t-shirt. To register, visit CaymanActive.com for more information.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
I'm going to Vant Motors to test drive the new 7-seater Rush.
They have some really sweet deals going on now, not true?
Yep, on SUVs. And they sweeten the deal by giving you a warm oven-baked cookie with each test drive.
Better test drive more than one, just to be sure.
Take a test drive for a sweet surprise this month at Vant Motors. Test drive any SUV and receive a freshly baked cookie. It's our way of saying thanks for dropping by to check out our huge sale on every SUV in stock. Save up to $4,400 during Vant's summer SUV sale. That's every SUV in stock on sale for thousands off or cash back. Sweeten the deal only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Hurricane Ivan was a storm that changed the Cayman Islands. On Wednesday, the 11th of September, you're invited to join the Water Authority as it marks the 15th anniversary of Ivan. View the Authority's special exhibit highlighting the impact of the storm and the strides the Authority has made to become stronger and more resilient. Get important preparedness information to help keep you vigilant this hurricane season, all while enjoying lunch. Join the Water Authority in remembering Hurricane Ivan. It all happens on Wednesday, the 11th of September from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Water Authority office.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher.
The Breeze Fusion 5K 10K walk run.
Saturday, November 2nd.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McPhail, Miss Theresa Pitcairn, talking about education in the Cayman Islands. Miss Theresa.
Right, I heard the contention that Steve made, which I agree with partially, in that parents must be advocates for their children. Parents must stand up to systems that make it impossible for their children to perform well. But I'm always looking at the symptoms. As from the 70s, and we're now in 2019, we have seen a trajectory of children having children. So a lot of the kids that we see today that are in our prisons are coming from these dysfunctional homes. So that's one issue. The other issue, of course, is whether or not parents earn enough to give their children the cost of living is so high that I hear many parents lament about the difficulties involved. And then we're not necessarily a community that's going to put our money together, what they call partners, and use that money to educate our children, because we still don't have that. We still don't appear to appreciate the value of having a proper education, because we're still even hearing even today that, having an education is not very important. And that is just compounded by a system which does not invest in its people. I was just looking for a note that I was looking at, and one of the comments made even by the former Auditor General, he said that with respect to his report on major capital projects, and this was in 2015, the Ministry of Education demonstrated that it does not have the capacity to deliver major capital projects in a manner that ensures that value for money is achieved. Steve was just speaking to the point of how much money we invest in education. But when you look at the outcome, are we satisfied that the amount of money that we've been spending and I didn't get a chance to track how much money we've invested in education from 1970 to today's date to see whether or not we're happy with the outcome given all of that investment that we've made in education. So one of our ministers, I noticed, stated that, that parents need to really step up in order to ensure that their kids get the proper education. But if we don't have a community that values education, what steps are we going to take to ensure that they realize the importance?
Okay, we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Good morning.
And good morning to your guest.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Dr. Bodden.
Yeah, I was listening to the show and the comments made by Dr. McPhail, the moderator, yourself, and Theresa. And you're spot on, but I want to say from my experience as an educator, and I would consider myself an eminent educator, not only theoretical, but by my classroom record and performance. It seems to me what the problem is, the first failure is in the home. And this is particularly so among the lower middle classes and the lower class people. They cannot see the connection. They cannot see the efficacy of making a short-term sacrifice for a long-term result. And people talk about dysfunctionality. Look, dysfunctionality is not an impediment. Few people came from a more dysfunctional home than I came from. But I had a mother who had a vision, who was determined that she was going to lay out her vision to her children. And that vision came from communicating. She sat us down and spoke as the eldest, I know my role, because she said, I can only afford to help one. You're the eldest, you're a male, I'm going to push you, and your obligation is to help the others and help me. Well, in my discussions and discourse with my students through the ages, families don't have these kinds of conversations. It's a free-for-all. And so you can't blame dysfunctionality, because sometimes the worst of circumstances bring out the best in us. So there's a failure in the home. Then there's a failure on the part of the authorities, and while government has strived to do well, they have never had a grip on what system of education is best for us in these islands. We fluctuate. It's almost schizophrenic. We were at CXC. Now we went to IGCSE. Then we're going back to something else. So we have to have one system and stick to that system. The third point is government cannot provide 100% for everybody. So people have to be prepared to pay some of the cost of education because education is high. The cost of education is high now. The third point, and perhaps this is the most salient point of all, our very leaders decry education and make fun and call us educated idiots and defunct school teachers and all that. So now if the people at the top, who are the models of success, are crying and putting down those who strive for education, but isn't that a turn-off? Isn't that a turn-off in itself?
Yep.
You and your panel have rightly identified it. We are in a crisis, and while we're not doing the worst, there is much, much better that we can do. We need to come together. It needs to be a national effort, beginning in the home and going all the way up. And I give the minister credit for what she's trying to do.
Yes, I do too.
I've been there, and I know it is difficult being an education minister in the cabinet, because I got the impression when I was there that education was of secondary importance because it didn't bring in money like banking and tourism. And I don't know if the philosophy has changed, but that's the impression that I got. So I'm praying for the minister, and I'm giving her credit, but we have a lot of work to do, beginning, as I say, in the homes. Mr. Moderator, guests, have a great day. I shall continue to listen.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, for your call and again for the contribution that you have made to this discussion, as well as the contribution that you have made to education in the Cayman Islands as well. Let's take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
In 1996, Rotary Club Central led the way, initiating a disaster fund to prepare and assist our community toward recovery. The Rotary Clubs of the Cayman Islands then expanded this valuable instrument, the Rotary Cayman Disaster Fund. Thereafter, Rotary District 7020, a group of 86 clubs over 10 countries in 16 islands across the Northwest Caribbean, grew this idea, the Rotary District 7020 Disaster Fund. Today, this Rotary Central idea has worked relief and recovery, assisting communities throughout this region. Rotary, with you before, during, and after. Rotary, connecting the world.
Have you seen the latest? Cayman has been ranked the most expensive place to live. It's time to buy smart. It's time to buy Ropers. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices at Ropers. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Clean up your spending with Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Ropers Janitorial also offers complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Attention all gamers. Get ready for the return of the Caribbean's #1 esports event and gaming convention this September 28th and 29th.
That's right. Gamers Bay 4, now a 2-day event. Going down September 28th and 29th, right here in the Cayman Islands.
If you think you have what it takes, you can compete for over $15,000 in cash and prizes. Compete head-to-head in Fortnite, Apex Legends, FIFA 19, and Super Smash Bros.
Special celebrity guest gamers and YouTubers. Drifter, Fangs, Queen of FIFA, and T. Martin will be in attendance.
There will be lots of free gameplay for PC gamers, console gamers, mobile gaming, and VR.
For more information and to register yourself or a team, visit gamersbaycayman.com.
Proudly sponsored by NetGeeks Media,
Mountain Dew,
C3 Pure Fiber,
Papa John's,
Department of Tourism,
Ministry of Education,
Kimpton Seafire Hotel,
Dolphin Discovery,
Cayman Turtle Setting,
Hurley's Media,
Suzuki, Margaritaville Beach Resort, and Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield, Miss Teresa Pitcairn. Back to Miss Teresa.
Right, so I heard what Roy just said, and I agree with him completely. My mother was a single mother, and, so she was actually guided about the value of education, actually because of her experience living in Jamaica when she was young, lost her mother at age 16. We were just speaking about Steve and the question is, you can't expect kids, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that have been given birth to the children that are in the school today to have that same level of maturity and have that same level of knowledge. The question is, how do we, given where we are now, how do we get the conversation going? I was having a discussion with Dr. Macfield yesterday when we were thinking about having this debate today, and he was talking about some of the things that he's experiencing even in the courts. And I was saying to him, he was discussing about the conversations he's had with persons in seniority in the judiciary about not having alternative sentences. And I was saying to him yesterday, we tend to think that we are imprisoning the crime, but we're not really sending crime to the prisons. We're sending our children to the prison and not giving them ways in which to actually develop their own self-esteem and have some value in our community. So the vision that Roy spoke of, yes. But I mean, given what we know now of our circumstance, what do we start to do to try and change things and invite people to consider the value and importance of education in the context of what happened historically and the fact that the cost of living is such that it actually puts a lot of pressure on families as well.
Well, for instance, we have so many people in the courts now. I see them coming to the courts for possession and selling ganja, smoking ganja, things like that. And then we have people on the outside is trying to have a dialogue, a debate about the decriminalization, the ganja, and trying to get an argument, not an argument, but a conversation going about the pros and cons of it, and we sort of ignore it. I mean, when I hear the guy Elvis out over in Cayman Brock talking about it and his petition and stuff, and let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table and talk about it. Let's educate ourselves about it, or about the pros and cons of it. Are we going to have a debate about decriminalization instead of just letting it to be taboo? And at the same time, we have a lot of people with criminal records who can't travel, who can't go to different places, who can't get jobs. But I suppose that the debate will be between those who found God on ganja while in prison, and those who use it outside the prison to boost their libido. And if we don't have a debate on it, we'll never know which opiate is the right opiate. That's the problem that we have. And that is why we need education is very important. Because if we don't have knowledge of our history and which is our strength, and where we came from, how we get here, and how we go in, how we are going to build this new society where 100,000 people coming in. I mean, I just don't understand it at all. We have to have dialogue. We have to have more shows like this on radio. We have to have shows. For instance, let's have a debate. Let's educate ourselves about the pros and cons of the drug ganja, and let's educate ourselves about it. and let's put decriminalization on the table and talk about it. But we don't do it, and we hope that, and we think that, oh well, by sending them to jail and putting fine on them and sentencing them to these things, it's going to make it better. It's not going to make it better. It's just like someone who eats all Burger King for 10, 15 years, and then when they get all kind of tumors from the fast foods and things like this and whatnot, then they go and see a doctor, and when the doctor says, "This is what's wrong with you," and then they don't like what that doctor say, then they go to see the next doctor, and they see the next doctor, and they see the next doctor, and then they spend all their money going from doctor to doctor, and in the end, the problem was theirs alone that could be fixed. That's the problem that we have, and we're not going to do it unless we educate ourselves. So, and then we're not using the resources we have in our society to educate. You know, like for instance, I saw the head of the UCCI now on the radio and the two different radio stations talking about technical vocation, about technical learning. And okay. Why are we duplicating all of this? We already have people like HaHa and Michael Miles with their stuff, and we already have the Machados with their garage doing these things. Why don't we get together and pool these resources and bring them together, amalgamate them instead of everybody pulling apart and doing the things? That's what we do.
But I was going to say, though, is that not a part of what we're talking about now, too, when we're talking about education? Because what you have just described is so endemic in our particular culture. I always remember what you say about a former governor saying that, you know, what Caymanians tend to do is go down in the engine room to mash up the engine because, you know, everybody wants to be chief. So we don't... Is
that Gerard?
Gerard, yeah.
Andrew Gerard.
So
yes.
we still haven't gotten past that mindset or even identified what causes that mindset, which actually is keeping us back. One of the things that I remembered as you were speaking just now is a report that I read. It came out sometime this year, and I remembered being I was really surprised by it because it spoke about government putting money aside for children who don't have English as a first language in our schools. And I'm saying, okay, this is Cayman. English is the language we speak, and we're actually identifying funding for kids who don't speak Cayman, don't have English as a first language. And I remembered asking about, well, what about our gifted children? We don't have a program for our gifted children, which is something that we need to develop. We identify who they are and ensure that they're on a fast track to success as well. So when you try to put all of this in context, you know, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, if I may, I shared with my audience last week two articles. One was 25th of November 1965. The Evening Institute that was started by Teacher Mark Field.
Yes.
And he was Teacher Mark Field then was the principal of the Cayman Islands Government Secondary Modern School. And he announced that while the well wishes of the Hotel Association, Global Seamen's Union, University of the West Indies, that they would, with their assistance, they would start something called an evening institutes, and subjects that would be given at the institute. There were various subjects that were being given at the evening institute. Now these were people and students who some of them had completed Jamaica local examinations and went to what we used to call the center.
Yes.
Jamaica Local Center. I think Miss Plunkett, later by the name of Miss Plunkett, was the person who was in charge of that at one point in time as well. And that Evening Institute started to be oversubscribed because here were people wanting to go on to further education. Remember, now we didn't have anything like ICCI or UCCI in those days. If you weren't fortunate, and it didn't come by fortune, it really came by who you were and who your parents were
That's
and
right.
where they worked,
Yes.
whether or not you got a scholarship to
That's
go off
right.
to England or to University of the West Indies or whatever. So there were a lot of people who were here in the Cayman Islands. Now, this is in the 60s, so the banks were just starting to be established then. The hospitality industry was the main employer for Caymanians. So here we had that evening institute. And then I also shared with them that then in August of 1966, so this was in November, August of 1966, they announced the graduates for the hotel training section of the evening institute. And the majority of them were women, Clorette Anglin, Ellis Anglin, Gwendolyn Anglin, Joan Eleanor Borden, Esme Bush, Donna Mae Powery, Arlene Connor, Anna Douglas, Andy, Naomi Ebanks, Cicely Ebanks, Celia Ebanks, Madonna Ebanks, Hermina Hurlston, John Hodson, one of the few men, Clarice McFarlane, Margaret Nixon, Ella Mae Powery, Francis Samuels, Phyllis May Scott, Christine Smith, Hyacinth Stewart, and they all graduated from that, and they were all guaranteed that they would get jobs in the hotel industry. And if there weren't any jobs available at that time, when they were available, they would get jobs. Because at that time, the focus was local employment.
Yes.
They didn't have the opportunity to go overseas to advance their schooling. Only those persons whose parents work within the government, they knew the system. They were the ones made the decisions, and they made sure that their children got proper education. But these people, and through the leadership of Teacher Mark Field and that evening institute, were able to move on to graduate, get jobs in the tourism industry at that point in time, when there were very few other industries in the Cayman Islands employing Caymanians. Have to take a commercial break. When we return, I'll ask you, both of you, to comment on that and compare and contrast that to what we have today. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Disaster risk management, climate change, and the One Health approach are among the diverse topics that will be explored at the annual Cayman Islands Healthcare Conference. It's taking place September 26th through the 28th at the Ritz-Carlton. These sessions will feature experts from Utah State University, the Pan American Health Organization, Public Health England, Cayman Islands Department of Agriculture, and St. Matthew's University. Boris Johnson's suspension of the UK Parliament is unlawful, according to Scotland's highest civil court. A panel of 3 judges at the Court of Session found in favor of a cross-party group of politicians who were challenging the Prime Minister's move. The judges said the PM was attempting to prevent Parliament holding the government to account ahead of Brexit. Arab nations have condemned a plan by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to annex a third of the occupied West Bank. On Tuesday, he pledged to apply Israeli sovereignty over the Jordan Valley and northern Dead Sea if he's returned to office following a general election next week. Officials in Jordan and Saudi Arabia sharply criticized the announcement. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
In 1996, Rotary Club Central led the way initiating a disaster fund to prepare and assist our community toward recovery. The Rotary Clubs of the Cayman Islands then expanded this valuable instrument, the Rotary Cayman Disaster Fund. Thereafter, Rotary District 7020, a group of 86 clubs over 10 countries in 16 islands across the Northwest Caribbean, grew this idea, the Rotary District 7020 Disaster Fund. Today, this Rotary Central idea has worked relief and recovery, assisting communities throughout this region. Rotary, with you before, during, and after. Rotary, connecting the world.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're still discussing the topic of education in the Cayman Islands. We will continue to talk as long as the subject remains live. We may switch. We want to switch and talk a little bit about referendum as well. We see where 99% of the signatures have been verified by the Elections Office. Excellent job done by Mr. Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Wesley Howell, and his staff. And the question then, where do we go from there or from here? We know what the Constitution says, but we also know what the Constitution doesn't say, and we don't know what the law will say because there is no legislation. Could we possibly have a situation that is quite similar to what's happening in the UK and Brexit, where everyone has their interpretation, interprets it the way that they want,
and the UK doesn't have a written constitution.
Right, it doesn't have a codified constitution at all. Interpret it the way they want, because there are things like national importance. Who determines what it is? Because it has not been defined. What is a reasonable period of time? Lots of decisions have to be made. Lots of people have to put their meaning, their interpretation to certain things. But we'll get to that later. We're still on education. Dr. Steve McField, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn. Ms. Teresa.
I would like to talk about Teacher McField.
Oh, yes.
What Teacher McField had the support of the people who were in charge of education, of the tourism business in those days. He had the support of those people, and that's why he could establish that school, and for those people. That's not the same as seems today. And then the person who was instrumental in getting that school together was his friend Mr. Salsar Rude. Yeah. Now, unfortunately for us in those days, the people who came here in the pioneering days, when there was nothing here mostly, they have developed the country. Rude Salsar was one of those. He came here, he got married, and he became a Caymanian. He became a Caymanian almost immediately, and he saw the need for developing his country. So he went out with Teacher McField and those people, and he got people trained for that, for the tourist industry. What happened between that time? Other people in our society got hold of the tourist industry, and in particularly the people that we were training people to go to work for, they got hold of the tourist industry themselves. The hotel owners and the condominium owners, they got hold of the tourist industry. They then started dictating who they wanted to work for them, and then they started changing the rules. And the rules started to change around 1983 when we had that immigration board, and that immigration board was told by the Hyatt people when Hyatt was coming in. They were breaking down the old hotel down in West Bay. What's the name again? The old Holiday Inn. They told
the Holiday Inn was that was demolished to make way for the Ritz Carlton.
Yes, and they that was going out of style. There were the people were not going to work there and not have jobs there anymore. They were going to work now for the Ritz Carlton for the Hyatt. The Hyatt people told them that because it was a 5-star hotel, they need to bring in people to train the Caymanians for those jobs. They brought a lot of people from Ireland, never forget, and from some United States. I know my neighbor had a daughter, and she was a really beautiful girl. She went down there to train. I went down there to look. She was working at Hemingway's, and I saw her following those people around. They never taught her a thing. They ignored her. And then what they did after they got hold of the system, that they could hire who they wanted to hire. They then set the wage salary for $3 and $4.50 an hour. And they say, if you want to come here, that's what you have to work for. And Caymanians could not work for that kind of money. They could not exist on that kind of money. And so then they did what they did during slavery after emancipation, all over in 1838 in Jamaica and 1835 in Cayman. What they did, when the slaves would not work for the apprentice wages that they were giving them, which was little or nothing, they brought people from China and from India and from plus to work in the plantation. They cut the sugar cane for cheap labor. They're doing the same thing today. It's the same repetitive thing. History repeating itself today. What they're doing now is that they're bringing the cheap labor, paying them $4 and something cents an hour for their salary, and then telling them the gratuity. The money that I give them for good service to me, it's a gift to them. The employers are using that to pay their salary. What an outrage. What an outrageous act. And we sit down and do nothing about it. We take that. And that is the reason why Teacher McPhail and all people and Mr. Jim Borden and them were successful in those days, because they had a handle. Mr. Jim Borden, Teacher McPhail, Mr. Warren Conley, they had a handle on the tourist industry, and they made sure that their people benefited from it. People are not benefiting much from it now.
Okay, Mr.
I was just kind of like listening to what he was saying,
and some of the things I talking about the Hyatt in the early mid '80s as well. That was the time when they introduced something in the Cayman Islands called seasonal employees.
That's right.
And the people from Ireland and stuff, they brought them here during the high season, the winter months, and supposedly after that they would leave.
But they never
Some
left.
did, and many didn't leave after that. Then the whole issue came about then. Those that remained, when the slow season came about, they would either lay off or cut the Caymanians' hours, because their argument was, but we have these people on work permits. They have rent. They have rents and things that they have to pay. What about the Caymanians? The Caymanians say, what about us? We have mortgages that we have to pay, as well. What about us? So, we were never told that. We have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to everyone there.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Every time you talk about these things, you're going to stand on one of my nerves, okay? What Dr. McPhail is saying that is being continuously practiced here is an absolutely disgrace. It happens today. In addition to the crime of making the customer pay twice for the employees, via a salary, the cost of the goods, which should contain the cost of labor, and then the gratuity, so-called gratuity, which is added. In addition to that, there is also an additional the component of the very same thing that you just mentioned, O.C., that people who don't want to leave, that are on work permit, and they will gang up. They will fabricate infractions that Caymanians supposedly have committed or perpetrated on them otherwise, and that way block the advance for Caymanians that are suited to be advanced in the system, and then they leave in disgust. Now, there are several documented cases. People have gone on Cayman 27 and have talked about that there was one young lady that was standing in front of a famous hotel that has the condominiums on the beach and the hotel part on the land side of the road. The young lady was standing there with a sign holding it up for about a week, protesting the practices, and they are going on today. And it really blocks the hospitality sector from becoming Caymanized by intention. It is a total disgrace. When I was working in the hospitality field back in 1978, and I was running the kitchen at Spanish Bay Reef at that time, and my salary per month then was 2,000 CI dollars. And you know, many chefs today don't make that either. They publish adverts where they request 10 and more years of experience, knowledge of international cuisine, and all those kind of things, and the salaries are a pittance, even compared to 1978. And look at the cost of living where we are.
Yes.
It is a total crime. Anyway, thank you. I think I can breathe again.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. You have so much to contribute in that area as well. I want to interrupt things to welcome Honourable Mary Lawrence, Madam Speaker, to the show as well. Madam Speaker, I know you probably got stuck in traffic, again this morning.
I could have walked faster.
You should have done what I did this morning. I was down from, I got down here from about 4:45 this morning, but I had another occasion.
I couldn't do that because I told you I had commitments.
I know, yes, you did. Yes,
that I had to take care of first.
You told me that. You did, yes, you did. But welcome to the show. How are you? Say a few words to our listening audience and viewing audience.
Well, I want to say good morning to everyone that is listening. Whatever phase or whatever area of Cayman you're in, or whatever area you're working in or educated in, I think we need to start listening to each other and come up with some solutions. I listened to the program as I came in, and the fact of the matter is we're saying it over and over and over again. And I'm going to say something here now that's going to probably get me in a lot of trouble. But I hear about the dysfunctional education system, and I wonder if we ever looked at the fact that the dysfunctional educational system is producing a dysfunctional parliament that has no interest in pursuing education across the board. I am not saying that they are not throwing money at education. Every government we have thrown money at education, but there is no long-term plan of where we're going and what we're doing. That caller that just spoke talked about the low wages. Who's looking at the overall picture of employment for Caymanians? Who's looking at the need? How do we know how many lawyers we need in this country? How do we know how many accountants we need? How do we know how many people we need in the tourism industry? There is no statistics to tell us these things, to say to our people. There was a time here when, some years back, when we said, we're going to make education a priority. If you want to train to be a teacher, you have the first choice at a scholarship in this country. Well, I went out the window real fast. But how are we going to get it done if in our classrooms, the people who are teaching our children, and I am not questioning their qualifications nor their intentions, but if the people who are teaching our children are not Caymanians, by and large, there are very few Caymanians in our teaching system. What are we doing to improve the situation? We can throw money at it as long as we want and as much as we want, and Parliament can go and they can vote the largest education budget in the country. But in all of that, I don't hear anything. We're talking about changing the system again, but I don't hear anything about how many teachers we expect to train within the next 4 years to come into that system to put in place what we are talking about.
But Miss Mary, we don't even hear of a plan. We don't hear of what our society is going to look like 5 years, 10 years from now. Because if we have a vision, then we can sit down and say, we need to do this in education, we need to do that. You're absolutely right.
But this is what I'm saying. We look back. We know where we made the mistakes. We know what mistakes we made. But what are we doing to do something about it today?
Okay. We have one caller. Let's grab the caller before we go to the break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning. How are you?
Mr. Devil?
All right. Not got the time to call them all by name, but I'm proud of the three of you. And I think with all you doing there, I think I should be on some kind of age, or when things come up like consultant, others should be called for them kind of things. They bring people here. We're going to see captains here that need to be consultant to them too. But the big people here talking about building a dock that mightn't saw salt water before, but pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the three of you should actually be remembered when money is passed out or doing this free. And another one, and two other ones my mind come from is Dr. Frank McField and Mr. Gilbert McLean. I think all of them should be remembered when government is needed things for this country. We got a good cross section of qualified Caymanians now can be consultants. So I want proud of you all. You all have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. We have to take a commercial break now, folks. Please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
Have you seen the latest? Cayman has been ranked the most expensive place to live. It's time to buy smart. It's time to buy Ropers. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices at Ropers. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Clean up your spending with Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511. Ropers Janitorial also offers complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time. Ropers Janitorial, 949-2511.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
At Logic, we make things better for our customers. It's why we're offering free Boost Wi-Fi. With Boost, you get improved Wi-Fi connectivity everywhere in your home, so there's no more dead zones. The only people we're not making this better for is parents. Because now with seamless Wi-Fi in every room in your home, go to your room isn't really the punishment it used to be. Sorry about that. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going to switch gears. We have a caller? Okay, let's take the caller first. When we complete the call, we will switch gears and we're going to talk a little bit since we have a resident expert here, someone with experience as being the speaker in our legislative assembly. And we want to talk about the United Kingdom, what has happened in the UK Parliament there, what will happen in the future, including the selection of a new speaker in the UK Parliament sometime later on this year as well. Let's take the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC, to you and your panel.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm very well. You know, Mr. Ivan just called in, and I must say that what he said makes so much sense with regards to consultants. Every day we hear of consultant coming in here for education, for this thing, for the next thing. And we have an abundance of expertise right here, and that would give us would consult for us with heart, with soul, because it is their country, they're Caymanians. But one thing that is clean and one thing that is obvious, I mean, when you look at Dr. McField, a man of many, many talents, a constitutional expert by all means, and yet an attorney, and we got all the others around. It speaks of Mr. Gilbert McLean. We got such a conglomerate of minds here in Cayman, and we don't want to use them because they're not coming from across the pond. You see, if they don't have a bit of an accent, oh no, that makes it Caymanians is for naught. Their expertise is for naught, and we must stop that train of thought and utilize the expertise that we have within our own country that will give us frank, open, and honest opinions, and that we can implement measures that can better be of benefit to our island. So that is my contribution. But I thank Mr. Iwan for bringing that to the forefront, because we have the expertise here. You gentlemen and ladies, have a good morning.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Anyone want to comment, Madam Speaker?
Well, I said when we had to break, one of our big problems is that we don't place a value on our own people. We don't acknowledge that our own people really have the expertise right here, that we have the expertise right here in this country. We have to go someplace else to look for it. And I remember back in the 70s when I thought we had one of the best inflows of educated young people coming back here. There was Roy, there was Gilbert, there was Ezra, there was Frank, there was Dr. McField. There were all of these young people coming back here. They had gone away to study. And there was a gathering them at my house, and I said to them, it is so great that you all are back. You can bring so much back now. You can give so much back to this country. And I said, I'm looking forward to you taking your places. And Gilbert McLean said something I've never forgotten. He said, Mrs. Lawrence, you don't understand. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh, yes.
And that has, I'm afraid, stymied progress in this country over and over and over. You know someone, whether it's someone in government, someone in politics, it doesn't matter where that person is. You have an edge on the person who probably knows a lot more than you do about the subject you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But we have to start putting a value on our own people. We have to start recognizing that Caymanians who went, we spend so much money to educate. We send them abroad and we bring them back here, and we don't want to listen to them. We don't want to hear what they have to say. And if they don't fit in with the mold, they don't fit into the little corner that we have planned for them, then they're out. They have to go trekking around to look someplace else. And I'm going to say this now. We're talking about the tourism industry. I had a grandson come back here. He'd been educated in Switzerland and Australia, and he came back to this island. And he has an engineering degree, but he's worked his way through schools in some of the best restaurants and hotels in those two countries. And he's here walking the streets trying to find a job. And he said, you know what? I'm going to try the restaurants. So he went. And first one he went to told him, listen, we only pay $4.50 an hour. Caymanians don't work for that. He says, you're looking at a Caymanian that will work for it. You can put me anywhere. You can put me behind the bar. You can put me in the kitchen. You can put me in serving. I have worked in all of those areas. Here are my recommendations from all the places that I have worked. And they told him, no, we can't hire you, because if we hire you, and there's a downturn, we will have to let someone go, and you'll have to be the first person to go. And he said, why? He said, well, you're Caymanian. You can get a job somewhere else. But the people we have on work permits, we need to hang on to. And that was a story across the board. everywhere he went, he heard a different version of that, but the results were always the same. And until we can make people who come here understand that they came here to get something. They came here to get what we have, and they cannot take it all from us. There has to be some of it that goes back to our people as well. And until that is enforced across, there was a time when we had a quota system in here, and there were people who quarreled about it, but you know what? When that quota was met, you had to go find that Kimanian to make up that difference. We have lost control of our country.
Yes,
we have lost control of it, and we can talk about it all we want, and we can beat it to death on the shows, or in the public, or anywhere else. But we need to get together in education. Government needs to sit down. Parents with parents, they need to put together a panel. We need to include the educators that are in our society already. We have the previous principal of UCCI floating out there in space. All that expertise. And what are we doing? Are we including him in the planning of the education system that we are now putting in place? Where are we going? If we're not carrying our own people with us, where are we going? And why are we doing it?
And yet there are some talking about increasing the population,
That's right.
Getting up, up
who
to 100,000.
are we developing Cayman for? We have to ask that
that's
question.
That's the huge question.
Who are we developing Cayman for?
That is exactly.
You know.
We have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, talking about employment. They're not hiring not only our young people, but they're doing it to the parents of our young people too. And it's becoming very discouraging. And our members of the Legislative Assembly.
Yes.
They should be ashamed of themselves to allow this to continue, because they continue promising people and doing something about this, and they continuing to allow it to happen, which is very discouraging to our young people, and especially when our young people see their parents trying to find work and not getting it in the same way that is happening to them. It's very, very, very discouraging. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
I'm going to Vant Motors to test drive the new 7-seater Rush.
They have some really sweet deals going on now, not true?
Yep, on SUVs. And they sweeten the deal by giving you a warm oven-baked cookie with each test drive.
Better test drive more than one, just to be sure.
Take a test drive for a sweet surprise this month at Vant Motors. Test drive any SUV and receive a freshly baked cookie. It's our way of saying thanks for dropping by to check out our huge sale on every SUV in stock. Save up to $4,400 during Vant's summer SUV sale. That's every SUV in stock on sale for thousands off or cash back. Sweeten the deal only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Come on, get ready for this year's 2019 Fidelity Fun Run Series. Join us opposite John Gray High School for the first 3 Saturdays in September at 7:30 a.m. for an exciting 2-mile run. Whether you're a serious competitor looking for a fun family activity or you want to take an early stroll, the Fidelity Fun Run Series is the event for you. Strollers and pets are welcome, and we've got trophies up for grabs as well. Register today for the races on September 7th, 14th, and 21st. And get your Fun Run t-shirt. To register, visit CaymanActive.com for more information.
In 1996, Rotary Club Central led the way initiating a disaster fund to prepare and assist our community toward recovery. The Rotary Clubs of the Cayman Islands then expanded this valuable instrument, the Rotary Cayman Disaster Fund. Thereafter, Rotary District 7020, a group of 86 clubs over 10 countries in 16 islands across the Northwest Caribbean, grew this idea, the Rotary District 7020 Disaster Fund. Today, this Rotary Central idea has worked relief and recovery, assisting communities throughout this region. Rotary, with you before during, and after. Rotary, connecting the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's back. And this year, it's bigger and better than ever. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents PACE, the 8th annual Delano Hislop Memorial Journey for Life, 5K walk, 10K run, and introducing the all-new 15K ride event. That's right, parents, kids, young and old. Come out on Sunday, September 22nd at the all-new starting location at the all-new Jasmine Building, adjacent to Coconut Joe's parking lot. Also, participants who raise the most funds can win one of our 3 grand prizes: $250 for third place, $500 for second place, or the $1,000 grand prize. Other random prizes will be available on site. So Cayman, it's time to get active. Sign up today at caymanactive.com/pace to be a part of the 5K walk, 10K run, and the all-new 15K ride event. Sponsored in part by DART, CUC, Cayman Water Company, the Cayman Islands Seafarers Association, Water Authority Cayman, Borden Holdings, BF Insurance, Cineco, and the Maples Group.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Honorable Mary Lawrence, Speaker of our former Speaker of our Legislative Assembly. Before I go to our panelist, one of our listeners has written and said, "Good morning, Mr. Connor. Just want to say that the only thing I enjoy more than listening to Dr. Macfield is when Mr. Roy Borden calls in and offers his contribution to the topic. I also enjoy Teresa and Miss Mary's contribution as well. So we want to thank that caller for that. And then another one says, "Good morning, OC. With regards to Miss Mary's comments about her grandson's challenges with looking for a job in the restaurant business, can you please inquire how the work will address these issues?" That's the new government agency now, WORC, how they will address issues like this as well. Of course, they have a Jobs Cayman portal, coming online as well soon that they have announced. But something that we will, if we're not able to address it on this, then we certainly will try to field some questions to the persons in charge of work to see is it work opportunities and residents Cayman, something like that. I think it's called. I'll look up what the acronyms actually mean. But we want to switch gears. And we want to talk about the UK and what's happening there as far as Brexit is concerned. A few developments just recently, and you would have heard on Radio Cayman's news that this High Court in Scotland has ruled that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, his prorogation of Parliament was against the law, based because of the intention was why Parliament was shut down. Also, a few days ago, we had the announcement by the Speaker in the House of Commons, John Burkhoff, that he would be stepping down as the Speaker either on the 31st of October or if early elections are called, whenever that date is announced for early elections, that he would stand down at that point in time, whichever one comes first. Now, there has been enormous criticism, especially from the Conservatives, in relation to the actions of the Speaker, John Burkhoff. There are many who feel that he basically went too far in allowing the members of Parliament to take control of the government's agenda. I guess what we would call an order paper here, and they were able to set the agenda, and as a result of that, introduce a bill that requires the UK Prime Minister to go back to the European Union to seek an extension on the date that the UK should leave, which is the 31st of October. So they were able to pass that legislation despite the fact that the government was supposedly in control of Parliament, and they were able to do so, of course, with the assistance of Conservative members as well.
And Scottish members.
Right, and the Scottish members as well.
That's because Mr. Boris had lost his majority in the House.
Yes.
And that happens.
But even before he lost his majority...
well, he had people who had ran away.
Well, what they felt was that the Speaker had used his knowledge, his experience, for them to advise them in a way how to formulate everything to be able to take control of the government's agenda. And they felt that that was not right. As a result of that, they then threatened the Speaker that they will now run a candidate in his constituents within the election, which is against tradition, because the major parties do not run candidates in the Speaker's constituents if that Speaker's continue on. But you had some questions for the Speaker as well, Dr. Markfield.
And I would just like to read what the Mail said this morning. Well, the Lord Ordinary in England ruled against the petition, the judicial review petition that was brought by some people against Boris Johnson. The Lord Ordinary dismissed the petition, and he found that the Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty the Queen on prorogation was as a matter of high policy and political judgment, not justifiable. The decision to proffer the advice was not able to be assessed against legal standards by the courts. That's what the English court said. The reclaimant motion appeal was heard by the First Division of the Court of Sessions over 5 and 6 of September. Parliament was prorogued in the early hours of Tuesday, 10 of September. Then says all 3 First Division judges have decided that the this is in Scotland now, advice to the Queen is justifiable, that it was motivated, it was motivated by the improper purpose of stymifying Parliament, and that and what has followed from it is unlawful. The Lord President, Lord Carloway, decided that although advice to the Queen on the exercise of the royal prerogative of proroguing Parliament was not reviewable on the formal grounds of judicial review, it would nevertheless be unlawful if its purpose was to stymify Parliament's scrutiny of the executive, which was a central pillar of the good governance principle enshrined in the Constitution. This followed from the principles of democracy and the rule of law. The circumstances in which the advice was preferred and the contents of the documents produced by the respondent demonstrated that this was the true reason for the prorogation. And so they found Lord Drummond determined that the courts have jurisdiction to decide whether any power under the prerogative or otherwise has been legally exercised. It was incumbent on the UK government to show a valid reason for the prorogation, having regard to the fundamental constitutional importance of parliamentary scrutiny of executive action. The circumstances, particularly the length of the prorogation, showed that the purpose was to prevent such scrutiny. The documents provided showed no other explanation to this. The only reference that could be drawn was that the UK government and the Prime Minister wished to restrict Parliament. Now, Madam Speaker, we do not have that same procedure in your legislature.
No, we don't. We had an incident here back in 2013, when a move was made to remove the Premier from the House or from the government. And at that point in time, when that was successful, the Premier had the option to ask the governor to call for new elections or to resign. He did ask for new elections, and in fact, the opposition leader, who's now the Premier, had echoed that same thing in Parliament, that they preferred that route. But the governor took it upon himself to install instead a minority government. And the minority government could not function under our Constitution. There is no allowance in our Constitution for a minority government to be seated. But they were. And then they ran into the difficulty of how Parliament was going to function after that, because the government has to have control of the majority vote in the House if it is going to get its agenda completed. And here is a government that has been sworn in that has no majority vote and therefore has no path to getting its business done. And there was some rumor around that the opposition, who had engineered this whole thing, were going to vote with the new government to give them the majority vote in the House, but that wasn't happening. And it ended up with the government that was displaced actually working with the new government that was coming in to pass the legislation that they needed to pass to set the financial industry in motion that we have today. It was the Parliament has to be supreme. I know people don't like that word. People don't like that the Parliament has this kind of power, but it does have it. And the Speaker of the House is in control of that situation. And I happen to have been the Speaker at that particular time in our history. And I had to work with both sides to make sure that Parliament would continue to function. Because if I didn't, we would have had a constitutional crisis. And at that particular time, right before an upcoming general election in May, we didn't have room to be dancing around doing nonsense on the side when there was so much legislation that needed to be passed to get our financial industry in shape.
Was that one of the reasons, too, why the governor decided not to call early elections, because there were impending elections right around the corner as well?
No. The governor had a problem. There was a personal vendetta between him and the Premier. And had he not gone the route he did, he was going to have to look at Mr. Bush in that government office every day until the new elections were called. And he didn't want to do that. His way of getting around that was to displace Mr. Bush and replace him with a minority government. And it was, like I said, it was a non-functional entity, because there was no way that government could get anything done unless the opposition kept their promise that, yes, they were going to stand by them, and they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
Parliament, we couldn't the government that was in place could not ask the Speaker to call the House because they didn't have the majority with which to do it.
I think in the UK they refer to that as supply and confidence, which is what I think it's one of the Irish party, Northern Ireland Party, is now has supplied to the Conservatives because of their lack of a majority. We're going to take our last commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020.
Get half off a complete pair of glasses with any student's eye exam, now extended to September 14th. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook, located in Caymanian Village.
Terms and conditions apply.
Remember to discard all fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, all foods in canisters, dented, leaking or rusting cans after they have come in contact with floodwater. Also discard foods that are stored in cardboard boxes, paper foil, cellophane, and cloth, as well as those in open containers and packages. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio, we have Dr. Steve Macfield, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Honorable Mayor Lawrence, former Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. Madam Speaker.
In our Constitution, the power for prorogation lies in the governor's hands. The government can go to the governor and ask for, but that has never happened in our history, and I can't see it happening. The government who holds the majority or must hold the majority could go to the governor and ask him to prorogue Parliament. But the prorogation of Parliament is set in our Constitution when it is supposed to happen at all times, except in exceptional circumstances when the governor can prorogue Parliament without reference to any parliamentarian or the House, it's the Parliament itself. The opposition does not have the numbers to go to the governor to call for a prorogation of Parliament. And so that's out of the question altogether. In our House, the majority must lie in the hands of the government, and at no time is the opposition going to have that kind of power. They always, say the government has its way and the opposition has its say. But you cannot go to the governor with a petition as a member of the opposition or as a leader of the opposition and ask him to prorogue Parliament, because it's not constitutional. And like I said, while the government itself could do that, it would have to be extreme circumstances for the government to take that kind of a move. The only thing they can do effectively is what they did in 2013 when they brought a motion to remove a motion of no confidence, actually, in the Premier. And once that motion was passed in the House, then they took that result to the governor and says, this is what happened in the House today. What are you going to do about it? And he notified the Premier that he would have to step down.
So I'm going to read what the final thing what the court said. It says, the court also decided that it should not require disclosure of the unredacted versions of the documents lodged by the respondent. The court will accordingly make an order declaring that the Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty the Queen and the prorogation which followed thereon was unlawful and is thus null and void and of no effect. But we do not have that sort of thing in here, Ms. Mayor, do we?
No, we don't have that. The only thing in our Constitution, only talk in our Constitution is about the governor proroguing the House. And he can prorogue the House at any time. If there's something going on in the House that he feels strongly about, he can call for the prorogation of the House. Or he can issue a notice saying that the House would be prorogued. But he also has to explain that motion to the Secretary of State, that decision to the Secretary of State. Why are you calling for Parliament to be prorogued at this particular time? But, the position that the OTs are in, I think, was emphasized strongly with the situation with the Turks and Caicos, when the British stepped in and just tossed the government out of the door, literally, and took over to run the country themselves and brought in their own people to run the country. And, the excuse then was that the country was in financial difficulty or that people had done certain things. But at that point in time, there was no proof of any of that. Okay. They just went ahead on the assumption that this is what they knew, and therefore they removed the government and replaced it with themselves. And it took a long time for them to hand the country back over to the people, and I don't think that handover is complete as yet, because I think a lot of they lost things like the privilege of having trial by jury. They lost control of their police force. They lost control of everything. They brought in somebody to run everything within the country, and that is the power that they hold over us. We can say that, we have a constitution, and this is what the constitution says. But that little clause at the back of that thing that says that for peace, order, and good government, let me tell you something.
The nuclear option.
That's the little thing that says that no matter what you say and no matter what you put in place, as long as this is there, you really have no power to make any decisions on your own. We're in a position right now that if the Premier and his government, and he holds a strong majority in the House, is successful in the passage of a law, it has to go to the governor for his signature and for his declaration as to when it will come into effect. And the governor can look at it and says, gentlemen, ladies, I don't want to hear that. And he will not sign it, and it's null and void, and they got to go back to the table and start all over again. That is the position we're in.
That's the equivalent to the royal assent. I want to,
and that leaves Parliament literally having to tiptoe in circumstances where they need to make a decision, and they have to tiptoe around the fact that the governor holds this power. To veto whatever they do.
So let me just ask Ms. Mary this last thing to clear this up. Ms. Mary, would you say that that's what happened in Hurricane Ivan, when the governor declared a state of emergency and took the power away from the executive and gave it to some people in the private sector?
Of course. But you see, he has that power, and this is what we keep forgetting, that is there, and it can be used at any time. And it doesn't have to be used in the interest of the people.
And it will remain there as long as we remain an overseas territory.
And the fact of the matter was, in the Ivan situation, it was not a good thing to do. It was not until the government managed to reestablish itself in there that we started to move ahead and make progress after the Ivan hurricane.
And I can tell you, being in the center of that, the politicians were not comfortable with it, and they realized what was happening. And I must say, to their credit, that they fought it. They fought it. They took the bull by the horns. But here's one that may give you an opportunity to comment before we go off the air. This person says, good morning to all. I can tell you where the system has gone wrong, and this is talking about education, right? He says, one, our government of late 1990s and since have listened to those who advised them to remove vocational subjects from their schools. They saw that Caymanian students who were not academically inclined were doing excellent in vocational studies, which was in the government schools in the 1970s and 1980s. So they found that they would succeed with disenfranchising these students. We can all identify many successful business owners of that era who benefited from vocational studies offered to them in school. Then they found that the other way to disenfranchise the academically inclined is by constantly changing up the exam system. The expat educators worked hard with their own people to make sure that they succeeded, but leave out the Caymanians and find ways to keep them down or limit them. Two, too many teachers in our current government system are too tired, old, and unhealthy to teach. So many of them have been at one school for more than 2 generations, and they are stigmatizing the students. Many of them are not worthy of an across-the-board pay raise. This raise of pay should be based on performance. 3, a huge problem that our schools have is that too many teachers in our schools are one culture or nationality. They are prejudiced to our students who are not one of we. That's how they refer to their people. 4, nutrition as a subject was kicked out of the curriculum. Many of the teachers themselves are unhealthy, but what they encourage our children to eat and what they should work hard for is usually material things. 5, another problem is too many older Caymanians just talk bad about us Caymanians, but they don't take time to visit our schools or children or youth services to share all their knowledge with their people. Solution: pay raise for teachers should be on a performance basis and not across the board. Local expertise should be used first for consultation and on our local issues. Caymanians must stand firm together now to use our expertise, knowledge, and everything we have to do what has to be done, including exercising our voting rights with our heads and hearts instead of sweet words and fancy promises. Education must become a number one priority in order for Caymanians to be able to be successful. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to contribute more of my knowledge in this area as a parent and as an educator. Have a great day. Well said. Well said.
Yes. Well said. Well said. But this goes back to what we said a while ago. There is not a plan. There is not a education plan that says in this year this is what we're going to do. In this year this is what we're going to do. In this year we're going to train 25 teachers. In this year we're going to train 50 teachers. In this year we're going to monitor the system. We're not doing any of that. And I'll tell you, the person is right. We are. And this is why I say we're dysfunctional. We have parents out here struggling. And let me tell you, there are a lot of parents there who's not making enough money to pay the rent. In this great society that we have that is supposed to be so wealthy, Caymanian parents are not making enough money to pay the rent. We have the educators over here who are doing their own thing. We have the parliament out here who says, oh, education again, let's give them a few million more. And that's it. There is no... A typical situation we have here right now is the fact that we have a high school started in Georgetown that was supposed to be priority 1 12 years ago. It's still not finished, and the classes are being accommodated in the buildings that were condemned for mold and everything else after Ivan, and same buildings that my children went to school in. And the youngest one of them is 49. That's what we're offering. But we're talking about the millions we're spending. The problem is we're just throwing the money at the subject because that makes everybody feel good. Parliament has done this. Their conscience is clear. They gave the money. Education is in... this group comes in and does this thing, and the next group comes in and does undo all of that and starts again. The parents are out here in limbo. They don't even know what's going on. We don't even have a PTA in the schools where parents can come and raise their voice and say, I don't like the food you're serving in the school to my children. I don't like all that Gatorade blue stuff and all the rest of it that they're serving to children. Why aren't you giving them a glass of milk? Why aren't you? We don't have a voice. This is the biggest problem. This is the problem with the referendum. We don't have a voice. And when we try to get a voice, God help us, there is every object in the world that they can put in its place, put there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much for being here with us this morning. We didn't hear so much from Miss Teresa at the end after the education, so we don't
Ms.
have
Teresa did great on that
enough
subject.
for closing comments. But I want to give her the last word this morning for some closing comments. So a summation.
Actually, I was going to share a few lines from Roy's book, Reflections from a Broken Mirror, and it's the title of this particular poem is called The Virgin's Bargain. But essentially, it's a poem about a Caymanian who loved being a Caymanian, who enjoyed what Cayman offered in yesteryears. But she met this guy that was a foreigner, and I'm not saying a foreigner is bad, but who she was smitten by him, and he promised her the world. And after years and years of marriage to him, this was her conclusion. Now that she had time to think, her nostrils filled with all the stink, pollution that comes in many forms, the concrete jungle among its norms, congested streets and traffic jams, core values gone, and now strange moors verging no more, she mourns these days. Now that I'm clad in finest silk, cavorting with strangers and their ilk, driving my BMW with all the fashion, taken in by their raw passion, now that my innocence is gone, I wish that I was never born. I cursed the day when the stranger came. I now wish I was my true self, now that I know things can't ever be the same, because all of Cayman now plays the same game.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Teresa. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want, or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Drainey Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. On Friday, I think someone will be guest hosting for me. I will not be on the show on Friday. I'll be back on Monday, God's willing. Have a great day, folks. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's news.